Hello, everyone, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Better the Pond Pondcast, the Flying V edition, where we talk to incredible people who are creating impact and ripples on the pond. My name is Warren Berry, and I'm your host and the founder of Instinctive Solutions, where we believe that everyone is an odd duck, but that's what makes them awesome. Today, my guest is Mike Nunn, COO of TLC Solutions in Vancouver, Canada. Technolojoy? Ever heard of it? Neither did I until I started talking to Mike. Mike and his team have discovered a way to bring joy into technology, thus Technolojoy. Mike is a lifelong learner, getting results and creating impact. Mike is all about creating consistency, aligning and communicating what true north is. Whether it is in business, family, relationships, he helps people find their North Star. Mike's statement to the world: only compare yourself to yesterday's version of yourself, knowing that you are the person that you are truly accountable to. TLC also runs a program called Technolojoy for kids, where they partner with big brothers and big sisters, as well as BC Tech, to promote technology to those who may not have the capacity to. Thank you, Mike and TLC Solutions, for everything that you do to better the pond. All right, so Mike Nunn, you are the CEO of TLC Solutions.
Technically COO for now, soon to be CEO.
Okay. So soon to be CEO. I thought you already had that title already. I've already given it
on the journey.
Okay.
On the journey. Well, thanks. I'll take the promotion. I'll let our owner know. Love it.
If you wouldn't mind.
Warren said so.
That's right. We met we'll give Tech Canada a little plug, and our friend Robert Hunt. So we met when I was speaking to your group, and in talking to you and the things that you're doing with your company, you really struck me as someone that we want to kind of share what you're doing, and that's the whole idea of the Better the Pond Pondcast. So with all that said, Mike Nunn, welcome to your very first inaugural Better the Pond Pondcast. It's great to have you.
Love it. Thanks, Warren. I'm excited. I'm truly excited. You are correct. First Pondcast ever for me. So excited for the conversation. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So as COO, soon to be CEO, actually, Mike, can you tell us a little bit about TLC? What do you guys do, and put in a kind of a synopsis of what's the company about? What's everything that you guys do to make the world a better place?
Great question. I always like to lead with our why. Too often people lead with their what, but our why, we deliver Technolojoy. So let me ask you, Warren, when I say Technolojoy, what comes to mind? New word, maybe you've never heard of it before.
I have never heard of it, but I would say the first thing that pops into my head is having fun with technology.
Bingo. So as a company, IT can be this boring, complex thing that a lot of people find mysterious or an unknown. We want to bring the joy, we want to bring the fun to technology. So at a very high level, our why and our vision for the business is we deliver Technolojoy, because that's what we want to do in everything that we strive to do in our business, internally or externally with our clients. So that's the number one. That's the biggest part of our true north and what we do as a business is delivering Technolojoy. We're on a mission. In the end, we're going to be a category of one MSP IT solutions provider in North America. That's our goal. We want to be a company that profitizes your IT. So we want to be the company that uses our IT superpower to enable companies, other businesses, to unleash their superpower. So taking that IT complexity, that IT unknown, and really turning it into something that drives profit, enhances culture, enables competitive advantage, and absolutely advances operational efficiencies. So at a high level, that's what we're looking to do in our business.
Okay, so I need you to take that and I need you to dumb it down for me. So, no, I'm serious. I mean to dumb it down. Yeah. Simplify it for me. I'm now you've really got my attention. We didn't get a chance to talk a lot in person because I was doing all the talking, which I do a lot of. But I'd really like to know if you simplified that a little bit and say what is it that you like? Give me some examples of what you would do for an organization so we can understand this a little bit better.
Yeah, no, great question. So as a business grows, as a business scales, it reaches a point where it has a decision. And it's one of two ways that a business can go. One is you internalize IT, you hire IT professionals onto your team, you start your IT department. It usually starts off with one person doing IT off the side of their desk. It's a small startup or a smaller business, or somebody in the business has an affinity to do IT. They like IT. So it becomes their rock. It becomes their thing that they do. At some point, as business scales and IT becomes more complex, the business has to make the decision, do they go all in on that IT internal team, or do they outsource that IT to a company like TLC Solutions? So we have a full staff of dedicated IT professionals who are constantly staying on top of certifications and latest technologies. And we are that outsourced or augmented IT team for businesses. So we handle everything from day-to-day help desk support to server migrations and cybersecurity support, virtual phone systems, a variety of different IT technologies and infrastructures and hardware, to take that worry away from businesses and a need per se to have their own internal IT team, or else we work with an internal IT team.
No, it's interesting. It is funny because as business scales, you'll see that they'll hire they'll have the one person, but that one person may not really know, right? They may like it,
Bingo.
but they don't know it. And then of course, if something goes sideways, we know how that can go. So having an organization like yours, having like TLC saying, hey, we're going to come in and we'll actually do this for you. You don't have to worry about it. We'll fully support you. We'll fully help you. We got a help desk. You can do what you do best. Let us do what we do best.
Bingo. 100%. That's our goal.
Love it.
Yeah. It's
Love
fun.
it. That's fantastic.
It is.
Cool.
It's a fun world. I personally, I'm a non-technical. My background isn't IT. So it's been a fun journey for me in the last 14, 15 months to join the company and join this industry and learn a ton about everything IT and infrastructure, and the support that we bring clients. And it's been fantastic.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting too, it's a business that'll never stop. I mean, it's just constantly, and as well, it's going at a blazingly fast pace. And we're looking at all of AI and things that are coming in now, and some of the stuff that's coming out actually just blows my mind what computers can do. So yeah, it's great having people like you.
The prevalence on top of just AI, but basics around cybersecurity, the need for having strong cybersecurity infrastructure, it's growing exponentially daily. We hear regularly about cyber attacks, large and small businesses. So being, I would say, current and on top of everything latest and greatest on IT cybersecurity, that's what our team does. We have our own tools like OneLock, to be able to protect our clients to the best of their ability and our ability. Nothing's 100% in the cybersecurity world. It's always evolving, but we've always got the latest and greatest tools to support our clients.
You know what amazes me about what you just said is that for every way that we try to defend from having information stolen or hacked into, there's always the other person on the other end of the equation trying to work harder than you, trying to steal it. And it gets underneath my skin. And, well, it does. But the fact is, if you took somebody who's that smart to be able to hack and steal, they're using it for evil, what would happen if they actually used it for good?
Yeah. And you know what? There's some great people out there that are using it for good, but unfortunately, they're doing that against the people who, and as you say, are doing it for bad. So it's unfortunate. We wish that world didn't exist, but it does. That's what we're here for, to help companies protect against those people.
Absolutely. Perfect. All right. So, Mike, here we go.
Yeah.
So what got you from being a gosling? And I mean, where were you hatched? Well, your very, very beginnings, right? So what got you from being a gosling to leaving the nest? So now when you left the nest, either you decided to leave the nest, or you had a little maybe help from your parents who might have gently coerced you out to fly on your own, to where you are today. What is your backstory, Mike Nunn?
Oh gosh, where to begin? I think the most influential early career experience I had.
You weren't listening.
Oh, you want very first?
Where were you hatched? Where did you begin? Where did Mike Nunn start?
Wow, we're going back.
We're going right back to the very beginning.
Right.
This matters.
Very beginning. So New Westminster, British Columbia, Canada. Born and raised. Same house, grew up in the same community. For my entire life, I was fortunate, or up till I did move out, but I was fortunate. I didn't do any moving as a kid, stayed in the same house, same community. So did a lot, I would say, to build the fundamentals of and foundation of community and family and friends and support. So that was fantastic in the very early on.
So, mom and dad, what did they do?
Dad was senior executive for BC Hydro, focused on compensation and benefits side, worked downtown Vancouver and in their Burnaby office, retired now, long since retired. And my mom worked in the school system. She was an executive assistant. Actually, at the school that I went to, the elementary school that I went to, which is always fun because
Oh,
it's never great having teachers that can literally say, "Do I have to go tell your mother about this?" It's like,
you
oh,
you wouldn't have been able to get away with anything. You couldn't
yeah.
have skipped or anything. Like you were held
Nothing.
accountable.
Nothing. Yeah, I had to be on point all the time as a kid. There's no
This is
doubt.
this is where you learned your responsibility, right? From the very, very beginnings. You had no because you had no choice.
I had
Uh,
no choice.
siblings.
One brother, older brother, Josh, great guy who works for a packaging company in Richmond.
Okay, so everybody stayed out in BC, eh?
Yeah, yeah, we're all here. We're all here.
Okay, cool. All right,
Yeah,
so you New Westminster, BC, beautiful part of Canada, out on the
love it.
west coast. It's
Yeah,
just like Saskatchewan, only different. And so you started your humble beginnings there. Your mom was in the school, so you had to behave, right? Dad
yeah,
was an executive, so he was all about leadership and whatnot. So walk me
yeah,
from that point forward. So you get to you had public school, same public school, obviously all the way through.
yep, yep. Same school. So elementary school, New Westminster, high school, New Westminster. I guess if we're going to talk about being a Gosling and growing up, one of the influential pieces, and I don't think I've talked about this publicly. A few people know this, but I was a fairly big kid. I was one of the biggest kids in my graduating class from high school. Actually, it molds a person to be one of the bigger kids, and just the dynamics from when I was going through high school and the different groups that were present back in the 80s and the 90s during high school. I guess all in the 90s, I guess I should clarify. But being that bigger kid going to high school, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, as you may imagine. So that was huge for me in forming, I guess, social practices that was very much evolved after high school, graduated, and I was lucky enough or driven enough to lose most of all of that weight, 70 pounds in about 6 months, 7 months,
Holy,
which did wonders because the next step was BCIT, the British Columbia Institute of Technology. So the seeing the two social sides to
hmm
going to school with the different impressions that I guess are present when you're the biggest kid in the graduating class versus not. Still drives me to this day, and the importance of treating others and the best way to treat them, and looking past people on the outside and looking to who they are on the inside. So that was hugely formative for me in the journey of going from the gosling and leaving the nest.
so that's interesting. So would you consider yourself like an odd duck?
Great question. I think everybody's an odd duck first and foremost. I don't think there's anybody in the world who has something that's quirky or unique or odd about them. It's truly how you look at it. So I guess in that sense, yes. But I suppose living the life in school on both sides of the popularity and I'll generically call it health
Mhm.
coin. Yeah, I'd say that gives me a bit of a unique perspective and view. Makes sense.
So far, I like the answer because yes, we're all odd ducks, so that's good. I like your answer.
Yeah.
The second part is, I guess, what did that teach you? I mean, being the bigger kid and whatnot. So and then moving over from that. So what was the
Yeah.
biggest lesson learned from that?
I think I think as I mentioned, it is just the perspective on how to treat other people, right? When you've received it, you have a better perspective on how to give it and how to treat other people. Treat them as people, as human beings. Don't take them for what you see on the outside, but understand them for who they are on the inside. I think that's probably the biggest piece that I got out of it.
Cool. Love it. And it's the first time you told the story publicly on your first podcast. This is fantastic. Mike, you're knocking it out of the
we're
park
gonna
today.
we're gonna keep going for firsts. What
All
else can we
right.
do?
This is awesome. I
Let's see
love
where
it.
this goes. Yeah.
So now coming to the point, so you went to high school. What was your first job?
First job, Safeway. I was a produce clerk at Safeway. First job out of high school. Taught me everything I need to know about produce. It was fantastic.
I bagged groceries, and I'm going to age myself here. And it
Okay.
wasn't, and before Superstore, it was Super Value.
Okay.
And so I bagged groceries at Super Value, and then they went into the bag your own thing. Well, if that didn't
Yeah.
upset the apple cart, but so I was also in the first job grocery business.
There you go. See, we
Yeah,
got ties that bind. This is
that's
good.
the point. This is good. So okay, so you got your first job, you went through high school, and then at what point did you leave the nest? And was it your doing, or were you kind of like gently nudged out?
Well, I guess candidly, I didn't leave the nest for many years after that, as in leave the house. My parents were super supportive and said as long as I was going to school, they would help support and have a place where I could live. So there was no forcing out of the nest, so to speak. So the commitment was always to go to school and continue the education. And while I was at Safeway, I was also going to college in New Westminster, trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. I'm still trying to maybe figure that out. I don't know. We'll see. And eventually moved over from college to BCIT, British Columbia Institute of Technology. So was still at the nest at
Mhm.
home as I was going through that post-secondary education.
At what point did you leave the nest?
I left the nest when after I met my amazing wife, and we bought a place together. So I was fortunate enough. We both were fortunate enough when we got engaged. We together moved out of the houses that we were in, and we moved into a condo of our own. So I was very fortunate. I didn't have an experience that a lot of people have of living with friends or roommates or things like that post high school. So I went straight from the home nest to the new home nest
Hmm.
with my wife.
I I lived on my own when I was 17. My parents moved, and I said I'm not moving cities in grade 12. So
Yeah,
I stayed on my own in the basement suite of a house in grade 12.
good for you.
And
Wow,
I tell you what, you want to talk about learn to grow up quick.
absolutely,
That's one way to do it. So
absolutely.
yeah, totally different way of doing things. So okay, so what took you into BCIT? What was that draw to go into that world?
I think most of it was, I guess I would believe, inspired by my dad. He was part of the first graduating class of BCIT back in 66, 69. I forget the year. It's one of those two. BCIT just recently, a couple of years ago, had their 50th anniversary. But that was probably the biggest piece, my dad's influence. I knew I wanted to be in business. At the time, I did not know what that meant. Dad seemed to be successful with it. He had done well. I thought, okay, I want to be in business. What does this mean? So mostly through his influence, I decided, well, I'm going to go to BCIT. And maybe it was the future inner operations person within me, but I thought, okay, seems like good value. 2 years. BCIT's got a great reputation, 2 years full time, that is. And out the other end, I can get going on my career in business, whatever business means. So I took business management at BCIT, 2 year full time, and graduated with a diploma focused on marketing.
Oh, cool. So
Yeah.
now, so let's take you from that point, right? So you've got diploma, you got your diploma in hand, you got the cap is
Yeah.
off. Now take me from there to where you are today, Mike.
Okay. So the first role, this is one of my big career epiphanies and learning lessons that I had. But my first role out of BCIT post secondary, I worked for a pneumatics company. I had all the inspiration and vigor and drive that BCIT does a fantastic job of giving. I didn't really realize in that first career type job in business, using air quotes here, what it meant to work at that level and in that type of business. And I did so well. I got fired from that very first job, and I'm happy to say now I deserved it. I definitely deserved it, and I
Hmm.
know I did. So that was the first job, and I remember on the day I got fired, I phoned my dad, and I was all upset, and how could they do this to me? And this is so unfair, and why have they done this? And my dad said, why don't you come downtown? Let's have lunch. I'm like, okay. So drove downtown and had lunch with my dad, and I have to say it was probably one of the best lunches from a career and growth and personal development standpoint ever, because I forget the specifics of what he said, but somehow in a fatherly way, he was able to help me understand that I was a product of my own results. I was fired because of me. There was no one else I could look at other than me. And if I wanted different results, I had to change me. Okay. And it absolutely sunk in. It was great advice. And I had a new job 2 weeks later. I just literally pulled up my socks, got right back to work, and no, I can be better than this. This is what I've learned. Reflection turned into a huge part of my career and life in general. I got back on the horse and found a job in 2 weeks.
Mm.
And that next role that I found turned out to be a significantly pivotal role in my career. It shaped a lot of who I am today, and still what I believe in and what I'm practicing and executing at TLC with.
Hmm. That is really is I mean, it's going to be going to our next question, and this is probably going to lead into it. But that is
Yeah.
actually a really great story for you, and even for your dad to kind of hold up the mirror for you to take a look.
Yeah. I asked him not too long ago. I said, "Do you remember that lunch?" And he didn't remember it. He didn't remember what was said and what was talked about, but it was definitely way more impactful for me as the young kid trying to grow, wanting to grow, and getting some of the best fatherly advice I probably ever could have received.
Right.
Yeah.
So what took you to TLC?
Well, after that role I was fired from,
Yeah.
that very first role, I spent the next 17 and a half years at a packaging company, a startup packaging company. I bring this up because I want to give credit and thanks to the president and owner of that company, Rick Van Poel. He, from the teaching me the power of self-education, showing me that when you apply a sound business philosophy and you stick to it and you do the right thing and you treat people well, you live by your vision and values, amazing things can happen as a business. And he was right. He was bang on from a giving back, from a growing the business standpoint. That experience at that packaging company really is ultimately what ended me at TLC where I am right now. That was where I met the owner originally
Mm.
of the company of TLC Solutions, and how he reached out to me about this opportunity at TLC Solutions. So I owe a lot of the credit to Rick Van Poel and everything that he did, and that company that we did, I guess I should say, to grow it from that startup to where it was when I left that company.
Hmm. And so when TLC approached you,
Yeah.
how hard was that decision to make the shift over from the old company to the new?
There was a bit of a gap in there because I had left that packaging company purposefully from a growth standpoint. I had great experience in that company and had a ton of success and growth personally in my role in education, became lean certified, and just part of a business that's growing and scaling and the constant re-evolution and change that needs to happen to support that. Um, but I had reached a point where I knew if I wanted more out of my career, I needed to get different experience. I needed to get more experience. And for me, that was working in different companies, working in different industries, having different teams, different challenges. So I left that company. I left the packaging company and I worked for a different company for a short period of time. I experienced the other side of the culture coin, so to
Ah.
speak. Shortly after that, I was at a label company and I spent almost 2 years at that label company. I really wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone. I had been an ops leader for 18 years in my career. And thanks to my tech group, I give them all the credit for this. They really pushed me out of my comfort zone and said, "Well, you've done the ops thing. Why don't you try lead sales?" I'm like, holy smokes, lead sales. I've been the other side of the business for my whole career. So leading sales, I feel the leadership skills are transferables, and I believe the power, and I live the power of networking and value in business, selling value in business. So I thought, okay, let's give this a try. And the label company was gracious enough to give me that opportunity, and that was during COVID, so it was a bit of an advantage. I was new to leading sales, but everybody was new to leading sales in that virtual COVID environment. So
Mm.
in some ways, it leveled the playing field a little. So we still had a good year. We opened up the business into some new markets, and that's where I was when TLC approached me about this opportunity. And it was from that label company that I moved over and joined TLC Solutions.
Hmm. That is a very cool story.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. This is
That.
great.
So I've had an interesting career, and a lot of it has been around how am I constantly gathering the skills, pushing myself, finding new barriers to the comfort zone in order to continue to make me better. Again, that same mindset of look in the mirror. What can I do for me? What is this teaching me? How am I growing? Rather than staying in a path, how am I making myself better? So
Yeah, you come across to me just from this conversation, just you're just a lifelong learner. I mean, we talk about results, but
big
results and
time,
impact and a lifelong learner. So it's
big time.
you gather no moss.
I, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Warren. I mean, just behind me, these are some of the books. I keep them there on purpose. They remind me to keep learning. I'm a huge reader. I always have a book on the go, a new book on the go. What's the next book? Courses, conferences, webinars. How can I soak up knowledge? Because you bang on. Life does not stop teaching, so I'm not going to stop learning. So
There you go. Perfect. So and in saying that, what book is on your nightstand right now?
great question. So, Nine Lies of Business is the book. Marcus Buckingham. Great book.
Mhm.
I actually saw it. I was on a tour, a tech tour. I keep bringing up tech. I should get a commission for this,
You
maybe.
should.
I was at a tech meeting tour of one of the group members, and he had this book on display. So I thought, hey, new book, looks good. So that's the book that I'm reading right now. It's a great book. I'm truly enjoying it. But that's the one for right now. And I just finished Amp It Up by Frank Stuhlman,
Mm.
CEO of a number of service, I guess, software service businesses that he took public and was very successful. So
Hmm.
those are the two recent books.
Cool. Love it. All
Yeah.
right. So this next question here, well, you might have already tackled it, but we'll just see where this is going to go. So
Okay.
the question is, what is the greatest thing, and that could be either positive or negative,
Yeah.
right, that has happened to you that's ruffled your feathers, and how did you respond to it?
It's funny because there's probably two or three things that came to mind when I was thinking about this question, but I do believe it goes back to that first role out of post-secondary and being fired. And the initial mindset of victim, right?
Mm.
Um, they don't know what they've done, and how can this happen to me? And just all of these victim type questions and statements that were running through my head. Because that's truly what I believed in that moment
Mm.
of time. Until I had that great lunch with my dad, and he set me on the right course of reflection and looking at myself and going, wait, you created this. So that for me to this day has been probably the biggest influence in my career, the biggest thing that ruffled my personal feathers. There's been incidences in various roles and situations in companies that have played a piece. But that I think, as far as influence, was the biggest influencer or thing that. What was your phrase? It rippled the tide.
Ruffled your feathers and
Ruffled my feathers. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. That's definitely the biggest one.
Okay. There's that famous statement of, do you believe, does life happen to you? Does life happen for you?
Yeah,
And I think, and as I talk to a lot of different, business people, entrepreneurs, and I've had my own personal experiences where the crappiest, the hardest thing that we ever went through was the
yeah,
best thing that ever happened. It
yeah.
just doesn't look like it at the time.
Looks like it after. Gotta
Yeah.
love hindsight.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And the learning that comes with it. So when you're in it, and again, it's interesting that you said, you took that sort of victim approach. Well, look what they did to me, and why me, and look what, like, how can this happen to me? And right. And
yeah.
one of the hardest things I think we do as people is getting on the other side of our eyeballs.
It is to pull yourself out of any situation and try to look at it. Um, I'll say from an impartial point of view, is the hardest thing to do, and you're bang on, especially as you're going through it.
Mhm.
Um, That's again from ruffling feathers. That's why that reflection lesson that I got very early in my career, thankful, blessed, lucky, I'm not sure what the right word is, that happened very early on.
Hmm.
Because I think my sense is a lot of people, maybe that never happens.
Hmm.
But I was lucky. I was lucky, and I use it to this day. So it's been huge.
Perfect. Awesome. So did you know, and well, actually you did know because you were in my session, but geese fly 71% further and faster when flying in the V formation than when
Yeah,
flying alone. So very, very
I know.
efficient. So what do you think the secret is, Mike, to having your team or having a team fly in that V formation?
Great question. I have a very specific answer for this because I believe this wholeheartedly. It's one of those things that Rick Van Poel taught me at the packaging company, that absolutely what I'm doing with TLC Solutions right now. And it's that consistency in communication and delivery on True North.
Hmm.
And for me, True North is your vision, your mission, and your values. So they have to be meaningful. They have to be talked about. Decisions in the business need to be made against those things and in line with those things. And I truly believe for a business or a team or a flock, whatever it may be, that consistency in delivering in alignment against that true north is what sets the difference and takes a business to whatever level it wants to go to.
You know, as I say, when the geese fly in the V formation, one of the reasons they fly there too is they can all see where they're going.
Yes.
There's no one behind another. They're always, so as long as we have that vision, or that, I call it the golden pond,
Yep.
right, we know where we're going, right, then everyone can see that, right? And I think what you say is so
Bingo.
important, of consistency and communication and knowing what that is. I'm just intrigued, just the thought just came to my mind, is
Yep.
how hard was it for TLC to find their true north?
I think it's still evolving to this day. We're 15 months, 14, 15 months into my journey with TLC, and it's the thing that I continue to talk about because we're constantly adding new members to the team.
Mhm.
So somebody in the company has heard it for the last 15 months, and other people in the company are going to hear it for the first time tomorrow. Um, so it, how hard is it? I don't think I put heart into it. It's just my job. I need to live that. I need to breathe it. Leading the company, it's my number one responsibility is continuing to make sure there's clarity and understanding and alignment around our true north, and making sure that I'm asking about it, I'm inquiring about it, I'm taking the pulse on it regularly. That's my number one job in the business. At least that's what I feel my number one job is,
Mhm.
knowing that it's incredibly important to have everybody feel in our business like they're on the journey together, so
Mhm.
that everybody knows where we're going and why we're going. So it's just the job. It's just the job. So I don't take it as hard or easy. It's just the thing that I endeavor to do every day when I go to work.
No, I'm glad that you say that, because and I say hard because sometimes for organizations who don't know, some organizations don't know who they are. Some organizations don't know
Yeah.
where they're going. They don't know, right? And there's so many unknowns, and then people are all floundering around trying to figure it all out. So that's so
Yeah.
fascinating that you know your North Star, you know where you're going, you know why you're going there, which is even harder to do. Why is a hard thing to find,
It
right?
is.
And then add that alignment. And I think there's a big difference between management and leadership. They're two very, very
Big
different
time.
things. And what
Yeah.
it tells me is that you're a natural leader, not a manager.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm a big believer that you don't manage people, you manage process and systems, you lead people. And you're right, there's a massive difference between those two things. And I guess I should say we deliver Technolojoy. That's our vision, that's our purpose in the business. We say that once the first time we developed that in February of 2022, February, March 2022. Nobody gets it instantly. Oh, right, we deliver Technolojoy. Great, let's go do that. Like that doesn't happen, full transparency. So it takes regular meetings with the exec team, with the entire company. I'm delivering tomorrow, actually, our strategic plan presentation for the coming fiscal year. And that's a big part of the presentation that I'll be giving to the company, is continued understanding and getting feedback, asking in the presentation, what does this mean to you? We don't have to be able to all recite the same thing word for word and memorize it, but it's got to invoke some sort of alignment and oneness between everybody. When we hear we deliver technology, what does that mean to all of us? No one's going to be perfect aligned, but as long as we're all going in the same direction, that's my dream. That's my hope for the business.
There's your 71%. So now here's my question, Mike. Are
All
you
right.
going to put joy into a strategic planning session?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So one of our values in the business is joy, to bring joy. And it's really the reason why joy and technology got mashed together to make technology. So everything I do, hopefully you're having joy from this conversation, but everything that I try to do or want to do, I shouldn't say try, everything that I do in the business, I bring joy. I have to. It's one of the values. If I'm not living that value of joy, what does that say to the rest of the business? So 100% yes in the presentation tomorrow. I love presentations. I'm a presentation guy. I don't read slides. To me, it's all about great visuals and telling a story and bringing the energy and getting people excited and encouraging and engagement and involvement. So yeah, I'm going to bring joy. There's no doubt about that.
I think that's why you and I get along so well.
I agree.
We're on the same page.
Yes.
All right, so let's get into we're gonna dive right into the whole Technolojoy piece. And my question is, so what are you doing right now to better the pond? What are you doing to make the world a better place?
Yeah.
What ripples are you creating? So you're and how are you inspiring others to do the same? So let's dive into this whole thing of, we know that you do technology and we got Technolojoy, but what else are you doing? Because this is what really got my attention, besides your great hair and such a nice, great guy, but what the company is actually doing to better the pond. That's what got my attention.
I think before better the pond, the thing that I would want to mention, I think personally what I want to do to better the pond beyond just our business, beyond just our industry, I'm very, very driven personally to not only be a good leader and a great leader, a successful leader, which I have a long journey ahead. I think it's a never-ending journey, but I also want to be a great dad and I want to be a great husband. So to me, those three, you can't sacrifice any one for any of the other. So from a bettering the pond standpoint, there's kind of an unwritten belief out there that executives have to be these amazing corporate soldiers and put in amazing hours. And there's a lot of stories from quote unquote successful people who regret missing their kids' first dance recital or their first hockey game or whatever it may be. That's not me. I just spent this last weekend at my daughter's Highland dance competition, and I will always be at their dance competitions, and I will always prioritize that. I will always be there for my wife, and we will support each other. And at the same time, I'm going to give everything that I have to the business. So to me, it's very important from a bettering the pond standpoint. I'd love to better the pond from a leadership in general standpoint, that it is possible to be good or great at all three things and not have to sacrifice any other, because they're all important. They're all important. So that's number one. From a TLC standpoint, very simply, I want our company to be a place where everybody loves coming to work. Most of us, there's some fortunate people out there, don't have to go to work every day, but most of us have to go to work every day. So because of that, why not create a place where everybody loves coming to? How do we build our people and culture systems? How do we build our internal communication systems? How do we improve everything about our business so that when people wake up in the morning, they're not thinking, oh, I got to go to work today at TLC. I don't want people to think that. I want to go to work thinking, I am pumped to go to work today. I'm stoked. I'm looking forward to this. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. So I have a huge role in creating that and expecting that of all of our leaders in the business to build that for the company. So that's probably the biggest area I'm looking to better the pond. Of course, I think like many businesses, I'd love to be that business that every one of our customers, every one of our clients loves to partner with. How do we get there? How do we continue to build Technolojoy and deliver Technolojoy into the business? It's an everyday battle, but it's a great battle to be fighting. And it's one that I'm looking forward to winning. Is clients loving us as their partner, and then our team members loving us as the place where they love to come to work.
Yeah, it's funny. I had recorded another podcast with a woman by the name of Shannon Waller from Strategic Coach, and they're out in Toronto, and love Strategic Coach. But it
Yeah.
was interesting. We were having this conversation about, we're working with organizations that or clients you love to work with. And as we sort of
Okay.
went into this conversation, like, well, why would you do anything else?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you just work with the people you love working with and just leave that? It's a small niche,
Yeah.
but it's expandable, and that way every day you get to love what you do.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
So tell me a little bit about Technolojoy for kids, because there's
Ah,
another way that you're bettering the pond.
there absolutely is. So I'm a huge believer and supporter of business. If you can do it as soon as possible in business, I think it's best. But when the business is able to do it, give back, support the communities that you're part of. I think it's a huge, important, I'll almost say required or needed thing to do for any business. So that is the foundation and the reason for why we've recently started a new initiative at TLC Solutions called Technolojoy for Kids. And what we've done is we've partnered with Big Brothers Big Sisters
Mhm.
to find a way to take not only our hardware and the IT that we have access to, but our skills and our knowledge to support kids who maybe don't have access to IT technology or education and understanding technology. We're doing that in partnership also with BC Tech for Learning, which is a BC charity that takes old hardware, still good condition and usable hardware. They refurbish it, they wipe all the data off of it, and they certify everything that they do, and they make it ready for charities and not-for-profits and things like that, businesses or organizations like that, to draw from their pool of refurbished hardware. So we've kind of created this trifecta of associations between us, BC Tech for Learning, and Big Brothers Big Sisters. And we've just launched a program that takes hardware that is still fully usable from our clients, but maybe they've replaced it or they've done something they want the latest and greatest. We have this laptop, we have these monitors, we have this IT hardware. We partner with BC Tech for Learning to refurbish it, and then Big Brothers Big Sisters are then able to draw from that pool to support the kids and the families that they work with to make sure they have tech and they're able to access whether it's remote learning or courses that anybody else can without necessarily needing to foot the bill for a brand new Mac or a brand new PC or brand new hardware. So
Mm.
that's the big thing that we're doing right now, and that's going to evolve. The next step is partnering with Big Brothers Big Sisters to do after school programs where we can engage our technicians, our rock star technicians, to teach, to share the knowledge that we have on whether it's just the internet or how to navigate a computer or just computer literacy in general. We'll work with Big Brothers Big Sisters to develop a couple after school programs to support their communities as well. So that's what we're doing right now with Big Brothers Big Sisters and BC Tech for Learning as part of our Technolojoy for Kids initiative.
That's fantastic. I think, and I think I talk about creating ripples. You can help a kid who's, 10 years old. I'm just throwing that out there, and teach them how to use a computer. And you never know where that may lead them down a career. That may be the one person who believed in them and helped them along and threw them on a career path. You just
Bingo.
never know where those ripples are gonna go.
Yeah, and it was a big part of when we started Technolojoy for Kids, and when I joined the business. How do we use our resources for better? How do we use our resources to make an impact, a positive impact, and diverting hardware? Because a lot of hardware goes to landfill or recycling.
Mhm.
Okay, well, how can we upcycle it and give it a new life
Mhm.
rather than just residing it to a landfill or to recycling? So that was a big piece. And then, hey, how do we use our IT knowledge for good as well? And that's how we ended up on the after school programs. So yeah, it's important for me. It's important for the business. We got a great team running Technolojoy for Kids at TLC Solutions. So it's been fun, and I know it's just going to grow. Then the best part is for anybody that does donate hardware to us through us, there are tax receipts available for that as well. So supports back to the businesses that do the donation.
Right. Excellent. And we'll get into a little bit of that, of how to do that. So that's fantastic. I love it. Like
Yeah,
you're bettering the pond, and at a young age. And it says that also tells me a lot about your leadership. It tells me a lot about your culture.
Thank you.
Right. It says a ton about that, because you're taking what you've got, what you've learned, what you've developed, what you've grown, and then help others along the way. So that is absolutely fantastic.
So important.
Absolutely. All right. So next question. What is one lesson that you've learned along your journey, along your travels, that you would share with an entrepreneur starting a business today?
Great question. I've lived this, so I guess I have the benefit of saying I've been part of doing this. Back in the packaging company, we did this. I've seen all sides of this, part of my business network and the many businesses that I'm connected with. And it's what we're doing at TLC Solutions right now. And that is knowing when the systems and processes don't serve the business or the customers or the employees anymore. It's being able to say, okay, when just use some generic numbers. When we were a $1 to $5 million company, this system and process worked really well for us. Well, now we're a $10 million company, and that system or process doesn't work anymore. It's not serving us. I've seen it that a lot of the time that old process that added a ton of value at the time, it's continuing to be pushed, and it's actually creating probably more waste than it needs to, now that the business is looking to grow or has grown to this new level. So I think from an entrepreneur standpoint, I've not been an entrepreneur, but I've been in multiple entrepreneurial businesses. I think that for me would be the biggest piece of advice I could offer, is knowing when and trying to see when, before it happens, that system needs to be torn down and built back up again with the current business or the next level business in mind.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's easier to try to leave it intact.
Oh,
right?
Big time.
Easier,
Big time.
right? So you don't want to put the work in.
Well, and I liken it to driving a car down the highway. Like, you can technically drive a car down the highway in first gear. You really can. I wouldn't recommend it, because eventually you'll blow the engine. So I liken it to shifting gears. So taking that business and shifting it into second, shifting it into third, fourth, fifth. And if you've got sixth, some cars got sixth, shift it into sixth, right? So making those transitions, those evolutions in the business, to make sure the operation is matching with the sales growth. That's a huge piece to scaling a business. So that would be my number one.
Great lesson. Well done. All right.
Fantastic.
So one last question I have for you, which you do not have there, Mike. All right. You ready?
I'm born ready. Fired up and ready to go. That's what I love to say.
Mike, if you were standing on the top of a mountain, and the whole world was intently listening to you, what would you say?
What would I say? That's a fantastic question. I think I would say something along the lines of what my dad gave me advice way back in the day. What is this teaching me? I think is the number one piece to enable that reflection. I think too many people, companies, spend too much time focusing on everyone else. I think comparing ourselves, comparing our business to others, prevents a lot of businesses from growing. And I think it prevents a lot of cultures from being everything that they can be. I'm a huge proponent, and you could ask anybody at TLC Solutions this. I'm a huge proponent of look in the mirror. That's the only person you should be looking at. That's the only business you should be looking at if you want to grow, if you want to get better. Other businesses, other people, they're in different places on their journey. They have different circumstances that they started with. They probably have different goals. None of us are the same. We're all odd ducks. Everybody's unique in their own way. So with that understanding, why compare yourself to anyone else but yourself or yesterday's version of yourself? So maybe I'll evolve my answer and say that. Only compare yourself to yesterday's version of yourself.
Ah, I'm going to write that down.
Okay.
I'm going to say it again. Only compare yourself.
Just thought of that right now. Only compare yourself to yesterday's version of yourself.
To yesterday's version of yourself. Very good. Whoo, man. Like, I'll put
Seems
you on
like
the spot and you just like nailed it.
seems like that makes sense.
Yeah,
I
it does make sense. Well, and I always say, you know, comparison is the thief of joy.
Big time.
And you start
It's a great
comparing
line.
yourself against others, and then it's the thief of joy, because you'll never, because everyone's so uniquely different. There's no comparison. So what are you comparing against?
Yep.
And then and then we end up trying too hard. I would say about, because as you know, I use nature as my metaphor and say, well, nature doesn't try.
It
Nature
just
just
does.
does.
Yep. It's
That's why.
funny. I use an example with my kids, trying to teach them the concept of try and just doing, right? You
Mm,
put a pen or something on a table and say, try pick up that pen. And they're, well, okay. And they pick it up. I'm like, see, you didn't try, you just did it.
mm,
Some things are harder to do, other things are easier to do,
mm.
but let's not endeavor to try. Let's just do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's easy
it's
and it's
easy. No
fun
problem. It is.
and
It is.
it brings joy.
Yes. So important. So
This
important.
this is like your word of the year. This just keeps coming around. All right. So I really want to thank you, Mike, for your first, as a first ever podcast and
First
Pondcast.
ever.
It's the only one in the world.
Yep.
You did absolutely fantastic, and I really want to thank you for your time and sharing your stories.
Thank you, Warren.
If anyone wants to find you, and find you, Mike Nunn, or
Yep.
find TLC Solutions and actually learn about Technolojoy for kids, where do they go to find you?
We have a couple websites. I would encourage everybody to go to our main website, tlcsolutions.ca. But the fun thing that we've done with Technolojoy, beyond just using it as our word and our vision, we've actually trademarked the word Technolojoy, and we own the domain as well. So by all means, go to technolojoy.com, and that will take you to TLC Solutions as well. So those would be the best two places to find me. I'm on the website. You can get a hold of me that way quite easily.
So tlcsolutions.ca,
Yep,
technolojoy.com.
correct.
Okay. And what about social media? Are you a social media guy?
Not so much. No, I'm on LinkedIn. I would say I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. I'm a believer that distraction is a cancer of business and productivity. So I'm not on any other social media platform. Instagram was the last one I removed myself from last year. So LinkedIn is pretty much the only place. Very findable on LinkedIn, but that's it. That's the only one.
Smart. I love
We'll
it.
see. There's lots of different opinions on that topic, but it's working for me. So
Okay. Well, when you hold up the mirror, who's the most important person you know?
the guy from yesterday.
There you go. All right, there you had it, folks. We had a great time here with Mike Nunn from TLC Solutions, and this is Warren Barry, and I'm flocking off to take you beyond the pond to better the pond, because we're better together. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks, Warren. Have a good one.
You too.